Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll take you inside NCBA's policymaking process and explain why it's critical to the success of the beef industry. Plus, hear how the Beef Checkoff has worked for more than 3 decades to increase demand for U.S. beef.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Thanks for joining us. Earlier this month, thousands of cattlemen and women made their way to Houston for the annual Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show. While there, many engaged in the policy-making process and were updated on beef industry priorities for the upcoming year. Joining me now to discuss some of the key issues for 2022 is Ethan Lane, Vice President of Government Affairs. Ethan, what are some of the key policy priorities for NCBA as we look forward to 2022?
NCBA is going to continue our focus in 2022 on some of the supply chain issues that have been so impactful for cattle producers around the country over the past few years. We're still dealing with driver shortages and dealing with labor problems in packing plants. We're dealing with all of these different things that we're seeing in other parts of the economy, but they've really hit home with cattle producers and have affected everything from prices to delivery to exports and everything else. So we're going to continue focusing on ways to work with the administration and work with the rest of the supply chain to ensure that we can get back to normal as soon as possible, solve some of these longer term labor challenges, and really address some of the challenges that we know impact our ability to get as much product through the system as possible on a weekly basis. We're also going to continue our work on a lot of the regulatory items that we've been dealing with for many years now, coming out of the Trump administration and obviously into the first year of the Biden administration. We always see this transition where the new administration kind of wants to put their own brand on some of these items. WOTUS is a big one that we're hearing a lot about. But there are a lot of other things too. Traceability is something we're going to continue to hear more about. We've initiated a lot of work on things like product of the United States labeling. We've asked USDA to look at that and find a way to make sure that product that's going to store shelves is voluntarily labeled in a way that works for cattle producers and is representative for consumers and delivers more value to producers for the product that they're producing. We're also going to be working with USDA on packing capacity issues. $1 billion is a lot of money to spend on adding new hook space around the country, and it's going to be really important that this industry deliver clear guidance to USDA on just how to get that money out into the country in a way that it's going to add diversified regional packing capacity that means more options for producers to market their cattle. Wherever we go in the country, that's what we hear is, hey, it's fine to send my cattle here or there and that's working for me, but man, it'd be nice to have an option that really worked for what we produce, that meets those local consumer needs in our backyard. So we want to work with USDA to find ways to get that done.
Full plate of activities. You mentioned the new administration. President Biden has been in office for just over a year. What has been the impact of this administration and its policies on the beef cattle industry?
I think we've been a little bit surprised by what a great relationship we've had with the Biden administration. And I say that because, the Obama administration was a little bit more difficult to work with on a lot of issues. There was not necessarily a great feeling from them about cattle producers and the work that we do and the benefits that we provide. That's not been the case with this administration. They recognize the value that cattle producers provide. They recognize the value of grazing. And we're seeing that in a lot of the discussions that we've had with them, whether it be on climate or some of the trade conversations. It's been a really welcome change of pace. There have been some things that we've disagreed with them on, like the 30 by 30 initiative has been really concerning for cattle producers around the country. But as we start to hear more detail, we still have concerns, but we're also hearing that Forest Service lands are going to be counted as part of that 30%. BLM lands we think are going to follow along. That's a recognition of grazing as a conservation use. That's progress. That's big news. And we want to make sure we continue that kind of movement towards helping them understand just what a valuable service cattle producers provide beyond the obvious, high quality U.S. beef that they produce.
So Ethan, tell us how your NCBA team works with both Congress and the White House to build and maintain relationships.
Well, that maintaining relationships is really the key part of that. We're always working to make sure that not only do we have those right contacts for people, but that they understand who we represent. And the fact that NCBA is a large organization with different viewpoints from all over the country. we're a one-stop shop in many ways to understand where the industry is on things, but also those regional differences and supply chain differences, so that when an issue comes up, we already have those relationships in place to go to work and see what we can do to either fix something or improve it or move the ball in the right direction. And that doesn't happen overnight. That takes months and years of developing those relationships. I always say we're in the friend-making business in Washington, and that's something we take really seriously. Both on the Hill and whenever we have a new Congress, we have a lot of new folks we need to meet. We have new staff we need to educate, and that's a full-time job for our team to Washington.
So tell us, how can beef producers back home assist you and your team in those efforts?
There is nothing more impactful for a member of Congress than hearing from one of their constituents about their issues at home. We are good at what we do in Washington. I'd say we're the best in Washington at advocating for our industry. But members of Congress want to hear from the local folks. They want to hear from their voters. And so when we see those connections being made, when those personal stories are being told and it's being related to those members, we hear that from those members when we get back to Washington. Man, I talked to 10 cattle producers and they all told me they're worried about WOTUS. There is nothing that's more helpful than that, making your voice heard. And honestly, calling those members of Congress when you're happy with what they're doing. Sure. Because they only hear complaints sometimes, they only hear one side of the story. It's really important to take advantage of that opportunity. We've been in the spotlight the last couple of years in Washington, D.C. There's been a lot of focus on the beef industry. We need to take advantage of the fact that those members of Congress are interested in what we have to say, and that's something that producers can really do easily from home and make their voices heard.
That's great advice, and thank you and your team for all you do on behalf of beef cattle producers.
You bet. Thank you, Kevin.
No doubt, what happens in Washington can have a big impact on farms and ranches across our country. We asked cattle producers what message they wanted to deliver to policymakers in Washington, D.C. Here's what they said.
One of the biggest problems I think we've got facing the cattle industry is the U.S. government. I'm not sure this latest move by the government to provide more packing houses, I don't think that's the problem. So that's just some of the things we need to worry about, and the things that NCBA really helps us manage in Washington.
Federal lands has always been an issue for us. Like I said, the cow herd, 42% of the cow herd spends time on federal lands, falls under the Bureau of Land Management and the U.S. Forest Service. The new agenda of 30 by 30 conservation is concerned. They have identified grazing as part of that conservation, so that's good news. But we continue to work through those issues. Government regulations, Water of the U.S. just got kicked up to the Supreme Court. Hopefully we'll get a positive ruling on that. Boy, there's just not too many examples of government doing anything good, and so I really don't know if we want them in our business or not.
We, the people on the land, seem to know what's best for us, and we need to be involved in the decisions that are made.
Most of us in ranching have been there for quite a while, for generations, and we have a genuine emotional attachment to our land. We really care about it. So a lot of the environmental regulations and things, that's fine, but we're already kind of doing that because stewardship is our bottom line. If we don't take care of our range, we won't have grass, we won't have a business. So it's economics, plus we have a genuine love for the land, and we want to see it thrive, and all the other creatures that live there. We want everything to thrive on our land.
Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll dive deeper into NCBA's policy-making process and why it's important to the long-term success of the industry. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Did you know you can get reimbursed for attending cattle industry educational events? The Rancher Resilience Grant helps cattle producers attend valuable programs such as Cattlemen's College and Stockmanship and Stewardship training sessions. Local, state, and national events qualify for the grant, and successful applicants can receive money back to help cover registration fees and hotel expenses. To apply for the Rancher Resilience Grant, go to ncba.org and click on the Producer tab.
Welcome back. Earlier in the show, we talked about NCBA's policy priorities for the upcoming year. And joining us now to talk more about NCBA's work in Washington, D.C. is President-elect Todd Wilkinson. Todd, thanks for coming to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here.
We talked to you a lot about this, but why is it so important for our organization to have a strong presence in Washington, D.C.?
You know, Washington, D.C. is a unique place, and it's easy for us as producers to think everything happens locally, but it really doesn't. And unless you're there and with it, not just a presence, it's more an active organization that can get things done. And I've watched our Washington, D.C. team do phenomenal things. And NCBA should really be proud of what we can do for the producers because of that presence in Washington, D.C.
And it's not just about the presence, it's about numbers, isn't it, Todd? I mean, what does a strong membership mean to the effectiveness of our work in D.C.?
Well, that's so important because if you're talking to a senator, or you're talking to a representative or a staff member, they want to know who you represent, the size of the organization that you want to represent, and the geographical area from which they come. And you know, when you got a membership like ours, we can talk about the entire country.
Now, you've had the chance and the privilege and frankly responsibility to testify in front of Congress. Tell us about that experience, and most importantly, why is it so important to have producers like you who are willing to step up to the plate and represent the interests of our beef industry?
Well, Kevin, as you know, that's a little bit of a task. You're a little concerned. That's not like going and working with the heifers or whatever else you're doing. You know, I've testified several times in front of DC, and I have always found the experience to be more than what my expectation was. And in particular, the last time I testified in front of the House Agriculture Committee, I was impressed by the engagement, and you really feel like you're accomplishing something. Yeah. You know, so many times we have conversations and you just think you're just talking to the wind. I actually felt like our message resonated. And then when I got out and away from that setting and heard the comments from the testimony, I was firmly convinced that we make a big difference when we're there and when we're engaged.
And thank you for doing that so much. Let's talk policy process, because a lot of people get a little confused about how policy is established within NCBA. Tell us about how that policy is developed.
Well, you know, and this is probably kind of an age-old thing, but I always equate it to a meat grinder. You take all of the organizations that we represent across the country and you put them in at the top of that meat grinder, and they go through a meat grinding process, and through the collaboration of all of the state affiliates and the people that are there participating, we come out with policy that's grassroots. And you know, again, that's a little bit cliche, but we really are a grassroots organization, and the fact that we come from the bottom up rather than top down, I think distinguishes us from what else is out there.
You know, there's no doubt that there's been some tension and frustration amongst and between segments of the beef industry throughout the last several years. Why is it so important to have one organization that represents all the interests of the entire beef industry?
You know, that's a very good question, because too often somebody will come up to me and say, well, you guys you have the packers involved, or you have the feeders involved, and not just the cow-calf. And I tell them, you know, if you're only going to be talking to the choir, you're never going to get the whole message out. So you have to focus on all of the players in the beef industry, just on not one small segment of it. And while, sure, I'm a cow-calf guy and I'm a feeder guy, I know the importance of that retail sector. and the people that are processing my beef. And if we're not all at the table, we're going to lose something in the conversation.
Very well said. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for all you do. The cattle industry needs a strong voice, and that takes all of us working together. Stand with Todd and other members of NCBA by joining today. It's easy to sign up. Just visit our website, that's beefusa.org, or you can call 1-866-USA-BEEF. Still ahead, we'll explain how beef will once again be the big winner when the new NASCAR season gets underway in Daytona. That story when we return. Stay with us.
Take advantage of the very best in Hereford genetics with the Sandhill Farms annual production sale Saturday, March 26th.
We've really tried to put a lot of carcass traits in our cattle. Ultimately, that's going to be a driver in price and profit.
I buy bulls from Sandhills because in the end, there's more money in my pocket selling the end product.
The Schultz family focuses on continuous genetic improvement of their Hereford cattle year after year.
I view everybody that sits in the seats at our sale as our boss. We want our genetics to get better every year. We've got to make the next set of bulls that the customer comes to purchase genetically better than the ones before.
Sandhill Farms, the brand that exceeds your goals. Find out more at the website sandhillfarms.com.
Getting to run a family farm is a dream come true. When you can grow good grass, there's opportunity to grow plenty of weeds. We want to use the tools that will help us do a better job. I would like the legacy to be that we took really good care of the land and we truly did it as a passion and we did our very best for the right reasons.
For the second year in a row, the Federation of State Beef Councils is partnering with the Daytona International Speedway to sponsor NASCAR's season opening race, the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300. At the recent Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show in Houston, we heard about some of the excitement fans can expect during this big event.
Get ready. On behalf of beef farmers and ranchers across America, drivers, start your engines. Welcome to the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300. It can't be race day here in Daytona.
The excitement of everything you've worked for is to get to Daytona. That time is here. What are you going to do with it? Look at them tomahawk.
And they got beef in picture lane. If you don't mind, I'd love to have one.
And here they come, back to the start-finish line. He is a champion, and now he's a winner of Daytona.
You were incredible. That was awesome. Holy cow. Thank you guys for all the hard work you guys put in. Thank you. Thank you.
There will also be a Beef It's What's for Dinner car on the track in Daytona. Russell Nemitz caught up with a driver who will be turning laps on Saturday.
Well, February is a huge month for both NASCAR fans and the U.S. beef cattle industry. Of course, for NASCAR, it's the kickoff of their 2022 season. And for the U.S. beef cattle industry, that means it's time for the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300 Xfinity race, all happening in Daytona, Florida. And with us on today's program is NASCAR driver Jeb Burton. Of course, you'll be participating in the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300. Before we talk about this great partnership between the beef industry and NASCAR, how excited are you to kick off the 2022 season?
Well, I'm really excited. I'm glad to be here with you today, too. Last year I finished fourth in the race at Daytona. My dad's won at Daytona. My uncle's won at Daytona. And the last couple times I've been there, I finished fourth. So I just need a couple more spots. But just excited to get started with a new team, new opportunity, and just ready to get it going.
Talk about opportunities. It's a great partnership, a great opportunity for the beef cattle industry and NASCAR to partner up for the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300. How cool of a partnership is this truly?
Well, you know, all the ranchers are blue-collared, hard-working folks, and for them to come to a NASCAR race, that's our kind of people. So just last year, we started this relationship with you all, and I did a little Zoom call before the race and almost won that race, and it's turned into me being here and going to sign some autographs. We got a show car here today, so it's just been a great partnership, and we love to eat beef, so I'm always eating a ribeye. My wife's always cooking for me, so we eat meat a lot.
We're glad to have you on the team Beef for sure. We, like others, watched last year's race, and you guys were having a lot of fun with the race because at the end, in addition to winning the race, of course, the driver was going to get to walk away with a cooler full of tomahawk steaks. How cool is that?
That's really cool. Like I said, I'm always eating beef. So my wife's dad has some cattle, and we always get fresh ribeyes from him. But you know, I told those guys before the race it was mine. I wanted to go get it, and I fell a couple spots short. So hopefully this year I can get those tomahawk ribeyes, and we'll be in good shape.
Well, we caught up with you here in Houston, Texas at the Cattle Industry's annual convention. As you mentioned, you're going to have that chance to visit with a lot of your fans, a lot of beef lovers, obviously. Talk about that opportunity to get that interaction with those cattlemen and cattlewomen from across the country.
Well, they're feeding the world, right? So, you know, the sustainability side that all these ranchers stand for, it's exactly what I stand for with conservation and sustainability. So to be here and hang out with these guys, they're my kind of people. I'm from a small state in Virginia, a small county in Virginia, Halifax County, Virginia, and been around cattle my whole life. So to be here with these folks, our kind of people, I'm glad to be here.
Well, we certainly appreciate you taking a little bit of time and joining us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, and best of luck to you on race day Saturday for the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300. Again, Jeb Burton, one of the Xfinity NASCAR races that will be participating in the Beef It's What's for Dinner on February 19th, of course running just a day before the legendary Daytona 500. In the meantime, for more details about this great partnership between the Daytona International Speedway and the Beef Checkoff program, you can visit beefitswhatsfordinner.com.
Now, don't forget, that race is this Saturday, February 19th. The Cattlemen to Cattlemen cameras will be in Daytona, and over the next couple of weeks, you can tune into our show for lots of great behind-the-scenes action from NASCAR's premier event. Still to come, we'll examine how the Beef Checkoff works to increase demand for U.S. beef all around the globe. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As a stocker operator, your job is to turn forage into profit. With the right implant, you can. Revlor G improves grazing performance for 150 days, the same length as the typical grazing period. And it's dosed for stockers' maturity levels, adding up to an extra 23 pounds. See why Revlor G is the #1 choice in stocker implants at RevlorG.com. A withdrawal period has not been established in pre-ruminating calves. Do not use in calves to be processed for veal.
This beef quality assurance tip is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Hey guys, Lyda Garcia here, Extension Meat Specialist at The Ohio State University. I'm here today to talk about a BQA tip on dart cutting. So first things first, what is dart cutting and what causes this quality defect? Well, dart cutting is due to long-term stress. This is where cattle deplete their glycogen stores in muscle pre-harvest, pre-slaughter. That results in less lactic acid produced in the muscle post-mortem or post-slaughter. Now, as mentioned in the name, the muscle color will appear dark, and it's primarily due to higher levels of pH than compared to normal. So who's the culprit behind this? Well, long-term stress. Now, when we talk about stress, we're accounting for physiological stress, psychological stress, and nutritional stress. This often will result in a discount value. So the big question is how do we prevent dart cutters? Well, the main goal here is to minimize stress as best as possible. Following proper and safe handling practices and management techniques is key. We always want to remember to do it the BQA way, and that's low stress, proper handling, and that will result in a higher end beef quality product.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Welcome back. One important way the beef industry stimulates demand is through the work of the Beef Checkoff. The $1 per head checkoff is used to encourage consumers to buy more beef through initiatives such as consumer advertising, marketing partnerships, public relations, education, research, and new product development. We asked beef producers from across the country to share their thoughts on the value of the Beef Checkoff.
The Beef Checkoff gives us the funding that the industry needs to do research, to advertise. I really do like what the Beef Checkoff has done the last couple of years on their advertising.
Marketing is important to any business, and the Beef Checkoff really helps us get the message about the quality of our product out there, so I fully support it.
You know, I think a lot of the research that gets done on the checkoff side is really important to the industry, along with the marketing side of things. But there's a lot of dollars that get put into marketing and research and new product development, and you know, a lot of those things, a lot of the producers don't see on a day-to-day basis, but it's targeting the areas of the country and the industry that we need to focus on to grow demand.
You know, if you look back over the years, the checkoff value has increased a little bit every year, and without them, I hate to think where we might be. Sometimes it's slow to see the progress that we make, but if you look back over 5, 10, 20 years, you can see a real progress in the export market. You can see a real progress in the amount of return per checkoff dollar that we pay in.
Continues to get the message out there of beef is being raised sustainably. It's a safe product, it's a nutritious product, and I think the pandemic has brought a little bit of light to the people having to stay home and cook more, and they're now more familiar with our product and realizing that it's not the same product that it was before, and it's because of the good advertising and campaigns that NCBA has taken on with the checkoff and advertising why beef is what's for dinner.
The National Beef Checkoff program is led by volunteer cattle producers from across the country who are appointed to represent their state and serve on the Cattlemen's Beef Board. Russell Nemitz caught up with this year's Beef Board chair.
Well, the $1 per head Beef Checkoff program continues to yield an amazing return on investment for all those checkoff investors nationwide. And joining us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen now is the Cattlemen Beef Board Chairman, Norm Voiles Jr. out of Indiana. Caught up with you this year here in Houston at the Cattle Industry Convention, Norm. And truly one of the success stories when we talk about the Beef Checkoff program and that ROI has been on the beef export front.
Oh, you bet. The beef exports have just been going nuts, crazy. We're looking at moving record numbers of not only pounds of beef, but also dollars of beef. We're going to experience over $10.5 billion of export sales in 2021. We're looking at variety meats, both going to be in excess of $1 billion. We're going to have 3 countries in which we're going to export in excess of $2 billion.
That's incredible news. And for folks at home, maybe boil it down, if you will, Norm. What does that mean for the guys back here at home that are actually making that investment? Because it does create more value for those animals we're raising.
It absolutely does. We're looking at values in excess of $400 an animal that's being fed because of those exports. And we're not only exporting those great cuts that we like steaks and roast, but we're also exporting variety meats, which would include livers, tongues, tripe, things like that we really don't use here in the U.S.
It's pretty amazing to think about that demand that we're seeing around the world for that high quality and delicious beef protein we're raising here in America. But we can't forget to mention about the incredible demand we're seeing right here at home from our own domestic consumers.
Absolutely. We're looking at about a 33-year high in domestic demand for beef, which is just tremendous, and that doesn't happen overnight. That's what the Checkoff has been working on for over 35 years.
And not only is beef delicious, but let's talk about the nutritional value. We know that consumers are getting blasted with a lot of other different messages out there, not just from other proteins, but now plant-based proteins. And you guys at the Checkoff are hitting this head on to make sure beef stays front and center in the meat case.
You bet. We've got contractors such as NCBA that is helping to fund some research from scientists around the country that are looking at the beef profile and what that does in different stages of life. We're finding that it is an excellent source of protein and amino acid profile for throughout the life cycle, from toddlers up to seniors. We're also seeing that from another contractor, the U.S. Cattlemen's Association, in conjunction with K-State, is looking at what are consumers wanting in terms of beef. And when they go to the grocery store, and we've got about 70% of folks believe that they are meat eaters, and they are 11 times more likely to choose beef at the grocery store than they are a plant-based protein product.
Well, guys like you and I, we could sit here for hours talking about everything that the Beef Checkoff program is doing with that $1 per head investment, but we've only scratched the surface. In the meantime, I know you guys have just kind of launched a new digital campaign, if you will, to get these type of messages and updates right to the inbox of people across America.
You bet. It's called The Drive. You can go to thebeefboard.org. Also, you can go to drivingdemandforbeef.com. Either website will take you to the Beef Board website, where you can see digital platforms that are short little 5-minute videos, driving demand for beef, and it'll give you lots of information that you can go and talk to your neighbors, consumers that don't have any idea what's going on in the beef industry, and give them great information from our contractors.
Without question, some exciting and positive news for the U.S. beef industry and, of course, those consumers. And more importantly, just an important update for all those Beef Checkoff investors across America from the Cattlemen's Beef Board Chairman Norm Voiles Jr. out of Indiana.
Now, to learn more about how your Beef Checkoff dollars are being used to increase beef demand, go to beefboard.org and click on The Drive to subscribe to a free newsletter that highlights the positive ways the Checkoff is impacting beef producers. NCBA and the Beef Checkoff work together to help consumers understand the valuable role beef plays in a healthy, nutritious diet for people of all ages. Here to talk more about these efforts is Dr. Shailene McNeil, Executive Director for Human Nutrition Research at NCBA. Dr. McNeil, you spend all your time focused on nutrition, and I'm curious, as a contractor to the Beef Checkoff, what are some of the things NCBA is working on relative to nutrition research?
Well, so much starts with that scientific research. I mean, our ability to be able to communicate the benefits of beef nutrition start with sound science that we can talk to physicians and dietitians and our consumers about. So in the area of research, one of the areas that I think that is really important is looking at the unique aspects that beef brings from a nutritional perspective. There's so much competition out there for beef protein, and we've been conducting research to look at can those meat substitutes really compare nutritionally to beef? You know, the labels might look similar, but are they really similar from a human health perspective? Yeah. And there's new research coming out of Colorado State University and the University of Illinois that is showing no, meat protein, beef protein in particular, is always considered high quality protein. And while those meat substitutes may have nutrition labels that look similar, when it comes to the real quality of the protein and what we can use from a nutrition standpoint, they're not the same. Beef is always an excellent source of high quality protein.
That's great news. You know, oftentimes we get hit with so much negativity and bad press in the media about the role that beef plays in a diet. I'm curious, what are the facts? What are the real facts about how beef fits in a healthy diet?
You know, I really do think that the mindset about beef and health is changing. It's becoming more positive. We're beginning to realize that the way we've been eating in America for the past 20 and 30 years has nutritional consequences. Cutting back on beef intake, there's just been a study recently within the last few months that has shown that the American diet is now lower in iron than it was in early years. Well, why? We're cutting back on some of those important sources of iron. So I think you're going to see beef getting more attention as part of a healthy diet because those nutrients that beef has, that iron, that zinc, those B vitamins, those are undeniable to support a healthy and balanced diet, especially for children in the growing years.
Now, the Beef Checkoff has invested in a program, Beef in the Early Years, I understand. Tell us more about that.
Because our diets are lacking in so many important nutrients that beef can bring to the American diet, especially in children, we have now seen new public health guidance to incorporate meats starting at around 6 months of age. This is new news for a lot of parents. It's new for a lot of physicians and pediatricians and health professionals because what we've seen is that when infants start to eat solid foods, they have very high iron and zinc needs. And beef is the perfect complement for iron and zinc. And so we're seeing more public health guidance to incorporate meats. And one of the things that we're doing through the Beef Checkoff is to educate parents on how to do that. Because pediatricians and parents have questions about how do I start feeding my infant at 6 months of age, meat. So
not ready to eat a steak yet, are we?
Right, that's right. Well, some babies can, when they get those teeth,
yeah.
But we start with educating about pureeing beef, shredding beef, cooking beef, and getting those important nutrients that support growth and development.
So what's been the reaction to this program?
So receptive. I think physicians, we've done market research with physicians, and actually both pediatricians and parents see the nutritional value that beef has. They see the benefits that beef brings for growth and development, but they have a lot of questions on how. So they're really looking to us to show safe and effective ways for incorporating beef starting at the early years, and the receptivity has been very positive.
There's lots of opportunities to spend Beef Checkoff dollars, and I'm curious from your perspective, why is it so important to invest in research that can back you as you're having these conversations with health professionals?
Well, we know that nutrition is one of those top 5 demand drivers for beef, and nutrition is a science, and health professionals are looking to that science to make their recommendations about what we're eating in our American diet, and so I think we have to start with science. In order to talk to a physician or a dietitian or a health professional about the benefits of beef, we have to come to them with good quality science. And I think our Checkoff program is so respected for the ability to conduct high quality research and then be able to get that information out to those folks that are recommending foods for parts of healthy diets.
Well, thank you for everything you're doing to position beef as part of a healthy diet for your entire life.
Absolutely. Beef has benefits throughout the lifespan.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Now, if you've wondered or been asked about beef as a healthy food choice, a good resource to check out is the Beef It's What's for Dinner website. There you'll find all sorts of nutritional information, along with healthy and nutritious beef recipes. Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll introduce you to another regional winner of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Get more from your mower conditioners with John Deere 0 Series mower conditioners. Cover up to 10% more acres per hour with the wider cutting width of the C500. Cut time changing knives in half with quick change knives. Mow with confidence thanks to our 5-year cutter bar warranty. Get more productivity, tractor compatibility, uptime, choices, and confidence with John Deere 0 Series mower conditioners.
If you're connected with the beef cattle business, then you should like the NCBA page on Facebook. The NCBA Facebook page shares photos, news, and valuable information about the beef cattle industry. You can also follow the NCBA Twitter feed at Beef USA. So stay in touch with NCBA on Facebook and Twitter.
The Environmental Stewardship Award Program recognizes the nation's best cattle and livestock operations for their outstanding stewardship practices and conservation achievements. These winners are dedicated to maintaining and improving their lands for future generations. Let's take a look at the Region 2 award recipient from Georgia.
Sustainability will have to stay at the forefront of everybody's mind, or else the place isn't going to be here. You've got to be conscientious of how you treat things for them to last.
I'm James Vaughn from Vaughn Farms. We're in Monroe County, Georgia, near the city of Forsyth. We're a family operation. My dad moved here when he was 14 in 1932. I came back to the farm in 1982. I started expanding, and my sons have kept expanding it, and my sons understand what it takes to sustain this place. Keep the cattle healthy, keep the grass healthy, keep the soil healthy.
We got to be mindful of everything we do, partly because if you do something to potentially harm the land, it's not only bad for the land, it's bad for your profitability. We need this land to produce for us and for the cows.
Taking care of the land and the water has always been a top priority here. That's one of the most important things we do. And the cattle are an important tool for us achieving our sustainability goals. Without the cattle, we couldn't manage this grassland. This farm has 2 streams running through it, and on the north side of these pastures and on the south side. And those creeks provide the water system for the town of Forsyth and also for the city of Macon, which is only about 25 miles south of here. We get on average about 50 inches of rainfall a year. And as rolling as this land is, if it's not in good grass cover like we're standing in now, it's going in the streams. So it's really important that we conserve the soil with good grasses. We want the nutrients to be here, and we want the soil to be here, and we want to build up the organic matter in the soil where it'll hold the moisture. It'll be spongy, it'll bring in the moisture, and it'll stay there. And it also, when we do soil testing and check the organic matter in the soil, it's up. The soil's in good shape, and that's what sustains us, all of us in the cattle business. The soil and the grass, that's what we're really about, is keeping the land in place and trying to make it better.
Sustainability means to me taking care of the land, thinking about long-term effects of what you're doing now for future generations. If you're going to be sustainable, I mean, you're going to have to think about it for the long haul.
I think my dad would be very proud of this farm. This is our little part of paradise. And there's nothing more important to any of us out here than looking after this soil and these cattle and this land, because we kind of feel like that's what we were put here to do.
Now, if you'd like to find out more about the Environmental Stewardship Award winners, see photos and videos, or even learn how to nominate someone for the award, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. Each year, a variety of cattle businesses and individuals are honored for their commitment to the principles of the Beef Quality Assurance Program. These award winners strive to provide consumers with confidence that they're buying a safe, wholesome, high-quality product when they choose beef. Russell Nemitz talked with the 2022 winners of the Marketing Award.
Well, there's no question that beef quality assurance is becoming more and more important up and down the entire U.S. beef cattle supply chain. And with us on today's program is Colby Carpenter out of Arapahoe, Nebraska, the Beef Quality Assurance Marketer Award winner. And of course, your family owns a transportation company there in that Arapahoe, Nebraska country. Talk about why you guys got interested and decided that BQA was something that you needed to implement in your business plan.
Well, we wanted to handle the cattle better. They're getting bigger. To protect the drivers, the cattle, and the beef industry, we needed to protect the cattle in the way we handled them.
So what are some of the differences that you've noticed since becoming BQA certified on how you guys are accomplishing exactly that, from loading to actual transportation to the unloading and of course the drivers themselves?
Quieter, more calm. It doesn't take as many people. We're only using 1 or 2 people to move the cattle, and nobody's hooping and hollering and screaming. It's a lot quieter, and it flows a lot easier.
It's kind of a different mindset from how we might have traditionally hauled and transported and worked cattle in a scenario like what you folks are doing there in that Nebraska country. But it can be done, and once you find that you can do it, you do find tremendous success, don't you?
Yes, very, very much success. And it's only 10, 15 more seconds in your time, and it's way better for the cattle. and that's the main concern, cattle and everybody's safety.
Well, and I think a lot of folks get afraid of becoming BQA certified, whether they're a cattle producer or someone like your family that transports them to and from destination point A to point B. But walk us through the certification process, and truly it's not something that we need to be scared of.
No, you don't. And I tell you that you need to do it, have your BQA representative come out and sit down and go through the class with you. And it's really simple. It shows you the flight zone with the cattle, how to move them, how not to move them, and it's so much easier now than it ever was.
What do your drivers think when you tell them that you're going to have them become BQA certified and we're going to try some new things? Walk us through that.
They're all on board for it. They, a lot of guys are older, and so they want to know how to handle cattle better, and we have to keep learning. This industry, we can't just say, oh, we know it all. We got to keep learning with the cattle, with the producers, with the farmers, everything. You have to learn.
Absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, you're actually the 2022 BQA Marketer Award winner again from Arapahoe, Nebraska. How does it feel to be given this type of recognition at the Cattle Industries Convention and NCBA trade show here in Houston this week?
It feels amazing for my dad and my brother and our family and our business and the guys that work for us, that drive and work with us every day. It's great because without them, we couldn't have done it. And God is our number one.
Amen to that. And last question, Colby, before I let you go. I mean, is this something you would encourage other folks, like I mentioned, up and down the beef cattle supply chain to really get involved and start taking a little bit more serious?
Yes, get on board. The packing houses are requiring it, so you just get on board. It makes life so much easier.
Well, we appreciate you being with us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, and again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Again, for more information about the Beef Quality Assurance Program, it's pretty easy. All you need to do is jump online, whether you're at a computer or even on your phone, and visit bqa.org.
When we come back, we'll hear from this year's winner of the NCBA National Anthem Contest. Stay with us.
Cattlemen and women are dedicated to managing their land and cattle in a sustainable way. They want to leave a legacy for future generations. For more than 30 years, the Environmental Stewardship Award has worked to honor these caretakers of the land and to share their stories. To find out more and to learn how you can nominate a farm or ranch for the Environmental Stewardship Award, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org.
Are you ready for a better shot at profitability with a more consistent, more efficient cow herd? Then don't miss out on the maternal edge offered by GELBVIEH and Balancer Genetics.
Stayability and longevity is really a strength of the GELBVIEH breed, and when these cows can remain in the herd 10 years or thereabouts, they return a lot of dollars to the producers.
Research shows GELBVIEH cows will stay in your herd longer with greater fertility and more pounds of calf wean.
It's the ability of that cow not only to have that calf unassisted, but to own that calf, to stay right there with that calf, to do whatever's necessary to get that calf going no matter what. No breed we work with does a better job of owning that calf and making sure that she's going to take care of than the GELBVIEH breed.
For cow-calf producers, the maternal traits offered by GELBVIEH and Balancer Genetics are the smart, reliable, and profitable choice. Find out more at the website gelbvie.org.
There's no lack of talent among beef producers, and each year, NCBA holds a contest sponsored by Norbrook to find a cattle producer to sing the national anthem at the opening general session of the Cattle Industry Convention. Kate Maher introduces us to this year's winner.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
There's no doubt cattle producers love their country, and it was on full display here at the opening general session during the 2022 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show. Joining me now is Stephanie Nash, who led that crowd in a show of respect to Old Glory by singing the national anthem. Stephanie, what did it mean to you to sing that national anthem in front of a crowd of beef producers?
such a blessing, you know, being an agriculture advocate and just being a dairy farmer and a beef producer. It was so amazing to see everybody in the crowd and just standing proud for the United States, and it's just such a great experience to be here.
You know, Stephanie, you are a fellow cattle producer. Tell us a little bit about your operation for those that don't know.
Yeah, so we're Nash Family Farms. We're a dairy farm in Tennessee. We also sell our own products. We have a creamery, so we sell ice cream and cheese, and I run our calf heifer management program, so I oversee 1,200 head of cattle.
So that keeps you really busy, but you find time for music. You also advocate for agriculture through your music. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I released a song called Time Changes. It was our family story from California to Tennessee, and just trying to tell the public, hey, you need agriculture, we need you, and telling them the truth about where their food comes from. The time changes, that simple way of life is come and gone, but I'm still holding on to the faith, to the truth.
Everybody in agriculture has some struggles. You made that personal for you through your music. What kind of feedback do you get from people that listen to those songs, and how do they relate?
Yeah, it's really great, the feedback. I mean, people all the time are messaging me like, we sold our farm yesterday, this has meant so much to me, and I just want to continue that push in agriculture advocating. You know, I have a song coming out March 4th called Raised On. It will highlight women in agriculture across the United States, and all I want to do is just be an influence for those growing up that need agriculture and want to understand our industry.
And you know, every year Norbrook sponsors this national anthem competition. How would you encourage people to get involved in this great program that Norbrook sponsors?
Yeah, I mean, any opportunity people have to use their voice and just be proud of America, I just want them to do the best and be themselves and know that they can do it. And the home of the brave.
Stephanie, thank you so much for being here today to sing our national anthem. You did a beautiful job. And thank you to Norbrook for sponsoring this great contest every year. Kevin, back to you.
Want to rewatch an episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen or catch up on anything you've missed? Then visit YouTube and subscribe to the Cattlemen and Cattlemen page. Not only will you find the current week's show, you can check out past educational segments and producer profiles from all across the country. So be sure to subscribe to the Cattlemen to Cattlemen page on YouTube. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.